All right, good morning. It's Wednesday and proves yet again to be a good day. So we're looking forward to that and what rolls in here and excited about the study this morning. It's been fascinating just looking at a critical eye about the trial of Jesus. Usually the time we teach this is near Easter, the resurrection Sunday, and we do a flyover because we're trying to get to the crucifixion. And so to do it slowly and just to see all of the concepts that's taking place here, totally amazing. And so we're going to go ahead and jump into this thing, and we're in Mark chapter 14, and we are verse 52, I think, is where we are. And what I want to do for us now is kind of bring us up somewhat to speed. He's been arrested. We see that, we know that at this point, uh, because that's where we were yesterday. So they have arrested him middle of the night, midnight maybe, somewhere in that range. And so they take him. Now Mark says that they take him to Caiaphas. Uh, John reminds us that they actually went to Annas, his house, first. And so I want to show you what transpires. We're going to get to Mark 14, but I want us to see how we get there and how that took place. So they've arrested him. All his disciples have fled. The naked guy they grabbed his bed sheet and he took off. Whoever he was, he's gone. So the 1,000 or so people, somewhere near 1,000 people, have descended the garden. They're headed to a house. So I'm assuming that the Roman cohorts, which is about 600 of them, whether they're there, they're outside, they certainly aren't going to fit in the house. So there's activity in the street. We know that. I mean, it's the middle of the night. This isn't late. This isn't like, oh, it's like 8:30 or 9 o'clock. No, this is midnight or so, that they are beginning this. And so let's pick this up and see what's going on. Now it says I'm in John 18. I'm just going to read real quickly this section. We won't look at that because Mark didn't, but I just wanted you to see that it's there. And they brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jewish leaders that it would be good if one man died for the people. So they give you a little context about what's going on. So they bring him to Annas, to his house. Now Annas was a high priest for several years, and then he wasn't. History says that the Romans kind of forced him out. Not sure about all of that, but then just like he retains the title of high priest. That's kind of a title you have forevermore. If you were once a high priest, you're always considered high priest, even though you're not serving in that capacity right now. All of his sons had gone through the role of high priest, and now it's his son-in-law and his turn. It's a family business, and Annas has turned it into a family business. Annas is in charge of the temple, and so he's the mafia boss, so to speak, of what goes on in the temple. All those people, money changers, and all of that. This is the guy that everybody answered to. Just so we're clear on kind of who Annas is, that's who he is. So when Jesus comes into his world, he realizes this is the man that literally upset the apple cart twice in his business. The one at the very front end when Jesus cleansed the temple, and then just a day or two before as he cleansed the temple. So Annas has special interest in what's going on. And so this is where it is. Now, let's read what happens there. It says, meanwhile, the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. I have spoken openly to the world, Jesus replied. I always taught in the synagogues or at the temple where all the Jews come together. I said nothing in secret. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said. Jesus is saying, hey, listen, if you're trying to drum up, false witnesses, well, go ask. Everybody has heard me speak. I'm not saying anything here that I haven't said there, that I haven't said consistently through my time on this earth. When Jesus said this, one of the officials nearby slapped him in the face. Is this how you answer the high priest? He demanded. Jesus looks at him, says, if I said something wrong, then testify as to what was wrong. If what I said was a false statement, well, then okay. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me? And then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas the high priest. So there was this quick little deal, trying to see if he can't kind of work him over before they send him to Caiaphas. And now we come to that. So now we're in Mark. That kind of sets the stage for what's taken place. And let's just pick it up there and we'll read our story. Now, the Passover, I'm sorry, that's verse 14. Let's get down there. They took Jesus to the high priest and the chief priest. The elders and the teachers of the law came together. Now, so here we have, in the middle of the night, all of these guys who had already been trying to figure out how to get Jesus. So they're all up, man. They're in a frenzy. They're like piranha with some meat thrown in the water, and they're all worked up, and so they're all there, middle of the night. They took Jesus to the high priest. All the chief priests, the elders, the teachers of the law came together. Peter followed him at a distance right into the courtyard of the high priest. Then he sat with the guards and warmed himself by the fire. Now that's a side note that Mark tells us because we know where that story's going. But the focus right now is on the trial. And so this is where we go. So the chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. Do you hear what's going on? Here they've all gathered. They don't have any evidence. They're looking for evidence. You don't bring a man to trial until you have evidence, until you have solid testimony, until you've done your legwork. They've thrown all that out the window. If we were to go back into the book of Leviticus and read some things, we would see a lot of that. But that's not what's going on here. Let me read to you Deuteronomy. Here's what it says. One witness is not enough to convict anyone accused of any crime or any offense that they have committed. So you can't have just one witness. A matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. In other words, 2 or 3 people have to corroborate the story of what's taking place. Their testimonies need to be consistent. No holes in it. No one says this and another says that. It's meant to clear all doubt on the basis of 2 or 3 witnesses. If a malicious witness takes the stand to accuse someone of a crime, the 2 people involved in the dispute must stand in the presence of the Lord before the priest and the judges who are in office at the time. Now, there's no judges here. There's to be judges here, but there's no judge. It's simply the high priest. Where are the judges? This is a sham trial. This is what I want us to understand. The judges must make a thorough investigation, and if the witness proves to be a liar, giving false testimony against a fellow Israelite, then do to the false witness as the witness intended to do to the other party. You must purge the evil from among you. The rest of the people will hear this and be afraid, and never again will such an evil thing be done among you. So show no pity. Life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. You get someone who bears false witness, and they need to be set up as an example. When the proverb says that there are 6 things the Lord hates and 7 that are an abomination unto him, it deals with this subject of false testimony. So let's read this and kind of see what's taking place. They're not in the temple, which they should have been. They're not in daylight, which every trial is. There's no judges, and there is no public. These are all the components that the scriptures speak of, and none of those things are there. So it says then, the chief priest and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. They're on a fishing expedition. That's all this is. They didn't find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. So what did we just read should have happened to them? They should have then been stoned. That's what they wanted to accuse him of. So that blasphemy, that's what they were trying to go to, and it didn't happen. Are they doing any of that? No, because it's not about the truth. Then someone stood up and gave false testimony against him. They said, we heard that he said, I will destroy this temple made with human hands, and in 3 days will build another not made with hands. Now, you and I read what he said. He said nothing of that. He didn't say, they added human hands in the whole concept. He says, destroy this temple. Destroy this temple. He was referring to himself, not the temple. They are trying to turn this into something different. Then but even that's not a crime. Yet even then their testimony didn't agree, he said. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked, Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? Well, one, they've not brought a testimony against him. They've not accused him of a crime. There's no crime that they've accused him of here. Do you see one anywhere? No. Even if he said what they said, he said. Not a crime. Maybe a lunatic. Guy can tear a temple down and then rebuild it in 3 days. I mean, okay. But there's no crime. But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again, the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? Now, Matthew adds this. He says, I adjure you by the living God, tell us the truth. Now, this is what I find ironic. Here is a man who is not seeking the truth, doesn't want the truth, trying to cover up the truth, saying on God's name himself, you speak the truth, son. Are you the Christ, the Son of the living God? This is where it gets to. And so he says, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? Jesus answers classically. He says this so many times in the Gospel of John, but here he simply says the same word he said to the soldiers when they fell on their backside as they came to arrest him. He looks at him and he goes, I am. I am. He uses that word again. And then he says this, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. So what's going on here? Well, Jesus is quoting a lot of prophecy. In Daniel chapter 7, in his vision, this is what he saw. He says, in my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations of peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed. So, and they all knew that. This high priest knew Daniel's writings. He knew those visions. He knew exactly what it was. And so Jesus goes straight forward and speaks complete truth. He says, I am the Messiah, and I am in full power, and I have the authority of God Most High, and you will see me sitting at the right hand of him. And so let me get back to Mark. So Jesus says, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming in the clouds of heaven. The high priest tore his clothes. That's a sign of utter shock and dismay and when someone blasphemes. So he rips his clothes and he says, we don't need any more witnesses. Well, you hadn't had any witnesses to begin with. He asked, you've heard the blasphemy. What do you think? They all condemned him worthy of death. Now, when this took place, according to Jewish history, one by one, and there would have been about 75 people in this room who had voting power. One by one, they would say up or down. One by one. Here, it's like that. We just mob rule, right? Oh, yeah. The high priest, it says, tore his clothes, and what do you think? They all condemned him. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, prophesy. So here comes everything that Isaiah prophesied. So here he is. He's standing before him. He had just declared himself to be God. They had no witnesses to disprove that. And they had plenty of witnesses that would testify that he did the works of God. But they didn't want any of that. And so what do? They mock trial. He's spoken blasphemy. That is to smear God's character. Well, he never smeared God's character. And so it says then, now they spit on him. Who that is, we don't know. It's not the guards. The guards come later. This is some of those ruling members are acting like little childish brats, and so they spit on him. They blindfold him, they hit him, and then they said, prophesy. They're just ridicule, making fun of the King of Kings. And then the guards took him. So after they had their fun with him, the guards take him, and then they beat him. And tomorrow we come back and we look at we bring in Peter and we see what happened there. But I'm blown away as the more you study this trial and you see the mockery of it. But yet all through Scripture you can see where this is where it was headed. All the Scriptures prophesied that this would be where it would head. It even prophesied that he would find his end hanging on a cross between two thieves. The Scriptures are so precise. This moment is the greatest moment in the history of the world, but we see all of this sham stuff taking place in order to get us there. Satan's evil, and that's what we learn. Man, I'm glad you came by to let's have this conversation. And he's got a few more trials to go through before we get to the crucifixion. But the end is close. By 9 o'clock, he'll be heading to a cross. By noon, the sun will turn black. By 3 o'clock, he will pass away. So just a few more hours of our Savior being alive on this earth in the flesh of Jesus before he has satisfied the debt of your sin and mine. So Lord bless you guys. Have a great day, and can't wait to see you tomorrow, Lord willing.